is Andrew, and this is the Who Dat Discussion, a New Orleans Saints podcast where we talk about all Saints news, opinions, and reactions. So before we get into some Dez Bryant talk and a preview of Saints Bengals, I just want to say if you like this podcast and you haven't followed us already on our various platforms, you can follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis, on Instagram at Who Dat Discussion, on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion, and then also you can subscribe to our iTunes channel, our Google Play channel, our YouTube channel, and then also our Spotify channel. On all those platforms, please like us, review us, rate us, leave comments, all that fun stuff, because, just all that stuff really helps us, see how we're doing, see what we need to improve on, see what we're doing good, and then, just all that good stuff. Thank you for all the Who Dat Nation who's tuned in to all of the episodes. You guys are great, and I know more and more people are starting to watch. We're, growing little by little, and it's just great that, more people are watching. So, with all that said, I think we should get into some Saints news. So, obviously, the big part of Saints news this week is that the Saints signed wide receiver Dez Bryant to a 1-year, $600,000 contract. It can go up to, I think, $1.7 million in incentives, but the base salary is only $600K here. Just starting off with his stats, in 2017, he had 69 catches, 838 yards, and 6 TDs as the Dallas Cowboys' first wide receiver. And in his career, with the Cowboys, he's had 531 catches, over 7,400 yards, and also 73 TDs, which is the most in Dallas Cowboy history. I think we should get right into, the analysis of this signing. And I think the Saints made it because Cameron Meredith is now on IR with the knee injury. He's going to need arthroscopic knee surgery there. So, he has a chance to come back, but right now, for the near future, he will not be available. And Dez, to me, he's last year, he only played about 10% of his snaps in the slot, and I think he's going to be the primary slot receiver for us. And I really do think that, we'll see, once he starts playing for us in games and stuff. But, that's where the Saints have their real hole here. It's not really, I think Traquan's, a pretty good outside receiver opposite Michael Thomas. He's caught some big catches. I think everyone kind of expected this from Traquan. He wasn't going to be amazing right out of the gate. It takes some time. But I think that Dez Bryant, because Cameron Meredith signing is a little disappointing because I feel a lot of people thought he was going to be better. He had a really good year in 2016 with the Bears, and he just really hasn't came along with the Saints. So the Saints went out and signed Dez Bryant. They feel like they're all in, and they can, they did this, I think, knowing that their wide receiver depth was thin, and then they went out and got a very, very talented receiver. As I said on Twitter, as well as other social medias, I said that sometimes you just can't deny talent, and I've been saying it for a while. We've been covering the Dez Bryant possibility of the Saints for an extremely long time, going back to the offseason, and only I think our first couple of episodes we talked about it, and now here we're talking about it again because it's obviously look, I knew that if our depth got thin at wide receiver, which it has, I said maybe Brandon Coleman at the beginning of the season, and they ended up signing a much better receiver in Dez Bryant. I know Dez Bryant's 30, and maybe he's past his prime, but, so you just can't deny the talent that he has. His ability, his catch radius is huge. Just start off with that. He's able to high point balls. He's a pretty good hand when he has good receivers. He had some really good, so look, he's had drop problems with Dak Prescott, but when you go back to his years with Tony Romo, and, Tony Romo, I think, is better than Dak Prescott in many ways. And, I think that, it's going to help that Drew Brees is his QB because, look, a better QB usually, transfers to a better, catch percentage. And I feel like, I think with the years with Tony Romo, he had like a 95 catch percentage. And then, with Dak Prescott, he was only 85, so that's 10% decrease there. So that's obviously a big deal. But I'm hoping that with the Saints, his, catch rate, not his catch radius, his catch percentage is higher. So excuse me there. And looking at other points of the game, he runs some routes really well, but he doesn't run other routes well. I think he'll have to learn that to be successful with the Saints. He worked with a route specialist, so I think that's going to help him, but I think that's going to be a big thing he'll have to do. And then in the red zone, I think it's going to be big because he's really dirty on jump balls and fade routes. I think he could be really good there, where you could just throw it up to him and he can come down with that. I feel like he can do that. I think he's strong in that department, and that's going to help the Saints because they have been a very, very good team in the red zone. I think we're like 6th in red zone percentage and touchdown percentage, but you want to get that to top 3, like we have been in past years. I think the Giants game, that's really the outlier that's bringing us down, but I think that we can get even better there. I think it's going to open up Michael Thomas in the red zone. I think that's going to be a big thing for Michael Thomas. I think you're going to see more touchdowns for him because really before, if you're a defense, wide receiver-wise, you didn't really have to focus on anyone but Michael Thomas. And now, especially in the red zone, it's going to be big. Michael Thomas can get a lot of one-on-ones, and he can win there, catch more TDs. I think that's going to be, a big factor there. And then, just another thing with Dez Bryant, everyone was saying that, his character is not good. I just don't believe that. I think he came in here so knowing that, look, it's obviously only a stepping stone to my career. I'm going to come here, play hard so I can get a long-term deal in the offseason this year. And, look, I can stick it to the Cowboys, in a couple of weeks, hopefully have a really good game there, maybe catch a touchdown in Dallas. And then also, I'm on a contender now, which I was just sitting playing Madden a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm on a contender playing football. And, I feel like that's going to be really huge for him. His motivation is going to be high. And he's coming into, I think, one of the best locker rooms here, led by, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Ben Watson's a really good leader, Demario Davis. All these guys are really good leaders, and I think they can help Dez Bryant, get acclimated quickly and be successful with us. So I think it's big. I think Dez is going to bring a lot of good things to this team. I think he's going to be a slot receiver, so don't expect him to get 10 catches, 120 yards, and 2 TDs like Michael Thomas. He's not going to do that. Expect him to have 2 to 5 catches per game. I would say that's probably a good amount. He's going to make some plays, some huge games. Maybe he'll have a huge game, one huge game, and then maybe we'll need that to get the victory. But I think he's going to be around 2 to 5 catches, probably in about a 50-yard range. Maybe you're looking at 40 to 75. I know it's a big range, but I think that's kind of the range you're looking at. And then also, maybe a touchdown. I think he's going to score more touchdowns. I think he could actually put in 4 touchdowns. I think he'll have a decent amount in only 8 or 7 games, depending if he plays Sunday. But going back to that, he is not expected to play Sunday, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. He said that's unlikely. The Saints want him to drop a few pounds. I think they said 5 pounds. Look, a football player can do that quickly, but give him a week. I think it's actually, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so if he doesn't play this week, it's not that big of a deal. Let him get ready for, this 3-game stretch after this game. This game's obviously really big. It's a road game, and, especially with the Panthers losing Thursday night, it's going to be big for us to, get a win in Cincinnati. But, when you play the Eagles, on Sunday, afternoon, 4 o'clock, and then you only play 4 days later on Thanksgiving night against the Falcons. That's really big. And then only a week, because then they play Thursday night again. They play the Cowboys. That's obviously going to be an emotional 3-game stretch for Dez Bryant and the Saints, and it's going to be big for seeding, in the division, seeding in the NFC, and it's just, I think, a really, really big thing that we are full strength for those games. And I think this game's really big. I would love for Dez Bryant to play. If he feels like he's ready, Sean Payton feels like he's ready, make just a couple of plays for him, get him acclimated. Even if he comes in just as a decoy this first game, I'd be fine with that. Because, look, Dez Bryant's just a really good talent. Look, if you look at his highlights, you'll see, he's elite talent. And I know he's getting older and he's not as good as he used to be, but he's still a very, very good football player there. So with all that said, I think we should get into some Saints versus Bengals talk here. So first, we'll start with some notes. The Saints are favored by 5.5 points. They have a 53% chance to win according to ESPN's matchup predictor. Also, some notes. Saints are 4-0 on the road. I think that's a big thing to highlight. I believe that, if they would win this game, that would put them over 500 for the year on the road. And I think that would be the first time in a very long time that we've had a winning record on the road. The last time that happened was 2011, where we went 13-3. So, that would obviously be a big accomplishment for this team, there. But I feel like I feel like this team, just especially on the road, I think we're built to win on the road. The running game, with Kamara, Ingram, I think Ingram's got to step up. We'll get to that, in a little bit, but just looking at it, I feel like our defense plays better on the road in comparison to how they play at home. I just feel like, look, you call it because of the dome, but I feel like we've had some really, really good defensive games at home. But I think overall, we have a pretty good defense on the road. I think that's also because of the offense, because, we try to take time off the clock, run the ball a lot, and just, I think that's how you're going to really win games on the road. So I feel like this team's built to win on the road. And look, another, playoff team on the road, it's going to be a tough game. No one's going to say this is easy, but, Cincinnati, they are banged up, and I think that's a good transition to our next note, and that's the injury report. So looking at the Saints injury report, to me, the only player that's going to miss this game, or, because there's really no one else questionable even in this game here, but I feel like, Davenport will miss this game. He didn't practice, Wednesday or Thursday, so unless in a miraculous recovery Friday, they didn't come out with the injury reports yet when I'm recording this. But, I would say Davenport's going to be out for us, but that really should be it, especially because the Saints put Meredith on IR. So, out of the players that could play, this seems like the only player that's going to miss. Cincy, they have a lot of people missing, so we're just going to go right down the list. AJ Green out because of a toe injury. That's obviously huge, star wide receiver, especially how our secondary has been. That's obviously huge. Vontaze Burfict, linebacker, I think their best defensive player. He sets the tone, very physical. People will call him dirty at times. He has a hip injury and he's out. Their slot corner, Darquez Denard, is out with a sternoclavicular injury there. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Also, their other starting linebacker, Nick Virgil, is out with a knee injury. Tyler Croft will not be able to go with a foot injury. He's their tight end. Josh Malone, wide receiver, he won't be able to go. O-lineman Alex Redmond, doubtful. He probably won't play with a knee injury. Gio Bernard also has a knee injury. He is questionable. And then also CJ Uzma, he is projected to play, but he is still questionable with his injury to his clavicle. So, look, they have a ton of injuries, and I think, it's going to be big for the Saints to capitalize on that, and I think that kind of evens out the home field advantage thing that the Bengals have, because they're missing a ton of key players. They're really missing the leader of their offense in AJ Green. They're missing the leader of their defense, with Burfict. They're missing their slot corner. They're missing another starting linebacker. One of their, tight ends that's, pretty solid. Young wide receiver out. Looking at, another offensive lineman out. Gio Bernard, good backup. He may not be able to go. And then, just a lot of inactives, and I think that could really go into the Saints' favor. Now on to the storylines. We'll be able to keep up the momentum on the road. We talked about that a lot. And I really think we'll be able to, because we play very, very, stable on the road. We don't try to get ahead of ourselves on the road, and then, we run the ball a lot, and we play pretty good defense, and that formula is going to win you a lot of games on the road, and I think the Saints can do that. Kamara has been basically the truth this year. He's been amazing. Ingram, I think he's got to get better. I think that's going to be a big thing. If the Saints, if they're going to win away playoff games, I think that's going to be a big thing. They're going to need Ingram to be a strong runner because, Kamara's great and Kamara's, be able to do anything. But if now they can go back to that two back system, I think that could really be good for the Saints there. And, I like how the defense plays on the road, a lot of physicality, especially, if we get up on the road, the defense starts playing really, really good. When we have a lead, the defense starts playing really good, so that's obviously big there. Another storyline is we'll be able to stop Joe Mixon and, the other skill position players, Tyler Boyd, players like that. And I think Mixon, we'll be able to stop probably better than we stopped Gurley. So, Gurley still did his thing, with the Rams last week, but wasn't that good compared to, I think it was one of his worst games, top 2 worst games for him this year. And, I think we could do a very similar thing with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's had a great year, but I just don't feel like, he and the offensive line, they don't really have that great of an offensive line against our, linebackers who have been, very, very good, our best unit on defense, and then our run-stopping ability in our D-line. Cameron Jordan's been really good about that. Also, Tyler Davidson, Sheldon Rankin's very, very good. Also got to look at Taylor Stallworth, all very, good linemen there, especially at stopping the run. So I think that's going to be big. Wide receivers, look, I think Lattimore's going to take Boyd, and then you got to look at Eli Apple and PJ Williams, and they're going to have to go up and stop really not so good players. Looking at Alex Erickson, and he's more of a special teams guy, very slot receiver like, a little shifty. He can be a problem there. And then obviously the other big player is going to be John Ross, who's very, very fast. We cannot let him beat us down the field. That's going to be the number one to me point of this secondary. Do not let John Ross beat you. He has amazing speed. We know that, fastest player in the combine. We cannot let him beat us, and I think that's going to be, a reason why we're successful if we're able to stop John Ross. Now, John Ross really only can run straight fly routes. We stop that, I think we'll be in good shape there. And then, our last storyline is, how is Cincy going to do versus our wide receivers? Because, look, Cincinnati has the worst pass defense, and, especially when we have a banged-up wide receiver core, will that help them? Will Michael Thomas just go off and it won't matter? So, to me, I feel like Michael Thomas will probably have a really good day. And then after that, I think we're going to have to see. I think Traquan Smith may have to have a really good game in this one. I think Traquan's coming along. He's got 3 touchdowns this year. I don't think he's that bad. I think he's coming along, and I think he's going to be, especially by the end of the year, a very trustworthy receiver. If Dez plays, that's a huge plus for us, but I just don't think he's going to go. They say he's not going to go, so, I would doubt that he goes there. But I feel like, those two guys, maybe you see Austin Carr step up, but I really think for us it's going to be those two wide receivers and then a lot of other skill position players, whether it's a tight end or running back with Kamara, tight end with Ben Watson. So I think that's what's going to happen there. So on to our group by group preview. So first, as we always, we will start with quarterback, and I think Drew Brees has the clear advantage over Andy Dalton here. Brees has been, one of the best quarterbacks in the game. 18 touchdowns to only 1 pick. He's thrown, I believe, around 2,300 yards there. The 1 pick, he's played just outstanding. Best QB rating in the game right now, second best QBR. He's had the best completion percentage. If he keeps his completion percentage up, that'd be the best, in history. So that's obviously really big things there. Looking at Andy Dalton, well, he's had, a pretty good year. He's played average. He's an average QB. He's always been average. He could play really good, make some big plays, and then he could have some bad games where he plays awful. This year he has 8 interceptions, 17 touchdowns, 2,100 yards, and a QB rating of about 93. So I feel like, look, average player. He's been pretty good. I don't want to say that he's been bad, because he has been good. 17 touchdowns, 8 picks. Look, they've played 8 games, so you just double that. That's 34 touchdowns, 16 picks. That's not a bad year. 34 touchdowns is outstanding. You could take that by any QB. That's a big year for them. So I feel like that's going to be a big thing here. So now, how would we stop him? I feel like, look, you get pressure on him, and then, look, he does not have a lot of wide receivers. He leans on A.J. Green a lot, so if we can, they won't have him. He also leans on Boyd. If we stop Boyd, I think we'll be successful there. And Brees, I think, he's just a better QB. I think hands down Brees in the MVP conversation. I think playing like a top 2 QB right now, if not the best QB, and I feel like Dalton's just not there, and I think Brees outmatches him there. Onto the skill position players. This is, I think, easy going to the Saints, especially without AJ. I think with AJ, it makes it a lot closer, but, without, their best receiver, I think the Saints have a clear advantage here. To me, Kamara and Mixon about equal out. I think Kamara maybe even a little better just because his out of the backfield, ways and the way he can, make guys miss, play really good. Because I feel like that's Kamara's big thing. He is amazing at, being slippery, breaking tackles, making guys miss. And it's just, it's such fun to watch. Sometimes you don't even think he's human. The way he can just break tackles and stuff like that. Mixon has had a really good year with, about 500 yards. He's got 4 TDs. He's only played in 6 games this season. So, look, he's played really good. Gotta give it off to him. But I feel like just overall, I feel like Kamara, I think he's got the edge there. And then wide receivers, Mike Thomas has a clear edge over Tyler Boyd. And really the rest of the receivers to me cancel out because, both teams don't really have depth there. And tight ends, CJ Uzma, not a bad tight end. I think Ben Watson's better blocking-wise and, catching-wise. So that's going to be, I think, a big, thing for the Saints. I think they have really a clear edge in both offensive categories. And then all offensive line, they also have a clear edge, too. Saints offensive line, to me, they've been the best in football. Looking at it, looking at some film this week that Brian Baldinger did, and he, broke down, really the offensive line. And I was just looking at the film. Great job the Saints did against Donald. They went one-on-one a couple times with him. Really some nice blocking schemes, complex blocking schemes that, look, a ton of defensive lines, they're just, they're going to be completely beat. And, they did an amazing job last week. They've been amazing. They've been a clear reason why we have had a lot of success here. Been on a 7-game winning streak. Looking at it, left tackle Armstead, he was rated the best, lineman in all of football, to this point. Andrews Pete playing now healthy, that's obviously really big for him. Looking at, Max Unger, who's played extremely well in that veteran role. Looking at Larry Walford, I think he's building on his Pro Bowl year last year. And also Ramczyk, who looks like an All-Pro this year. They've played outstanding. Bengals O-line has played better than expected. You got to give it to that. But their tackles have not been very good. Bobby Hart, who used to play for the Giants, so I'm familiar with him, he is not good, and he's had a bad year. I mean, look, they have Billy Price, the rookie. He's not even starting for them right now, so that's obviously good. They got some depth there. But, look, they're ranked basically mid-pack, maybe a little below. They're not a bad line, but I think our line's much better there. Now on to the defense, and I feel like both defense are not very strong, but see where they really match up here. I mean, defensive line, I think you got to give it to Cincy because they have a lot of people who can get to the quarterback and sack the quarterback. Just looking at it, they got Geno Atkins, who's always a force, and that's going to be, he's obviously not as good as Donald, but he's very, very good. And if he gets in Breeze's, path, and especially because Breeze is not that tall, so, pressure straight up the middle would be a really big problem. So that means you need to block Geno Atkins from that defensive tackle spot. He's got 6 sacks, and they're gonna need to block him up, if you want to win there. Also, Carlos Dunlap has been extremely strong this year, 7 sacks, just amazing stuff. They've played really good, so you got to give them the edge there. But the Saints defensive line I don't think has played that bad. Looking at it, I feel Cam Jordan's been extremely strong. The run blocking has been amazing. So I mean, look, I think Cincy has an edge, but not a huge edge there. Linebackers, I think it's clearly Saints. Saints, to me, have a top 10 linebacking group here. I feel like, I think we're playing very, very strong there, led by Demario Davis, who has just been an absolute animal here. He's been able to, the speed that he has, the short tackling, even on blitzes, he's been able to get to the QB. Amazing stuff there. And that's been followed by A.J. Klein, who's having a really career year, he's been really, really strong. And then also Alexander Loney, who's really coming along, had a great game, had that huge pick, been very good. And then Manti Te'o, I think, will be active for this game because, look, last game, they don't really run the ball with that, the personnel that he usually plays in. They're playing a lot of 11 personnel, a lot of nickel stuff for us. So, playing Manti Te'o, to me, wasn't performance, it was just need-based. And to me, I think we needed that extra corner, instead of Te'o. But I think Te'o's had a fine year, been good against the run, so I think, he keeps up the work that he's doing. That's good. I mean, looking at Cincy, they should have a really good linebacking core with, they have Burfict, Princeton Brown's, solid, Nick Virgil. These are all solid players, but 2 out of those 3 players are out. You're bringing up backups in. That's just not as good as the Saints, in my opinion, there. And then on to cornerbacks. To me, it's really a push for how bad both have been. At least Cincy has been able to get turnovers, so maybe give a slight edge to them. But both groups have just not played well. I mean, obviously, I think the injury to the slot corner, Darquez Denard, will not help Cincy out there, especially, when Alvin Kamara goes out in the slot. Now they're going to have to put linebackers there. They won't be able to put the cornerback there, so that's obviously going to be a point in our favor. That will be big. But to me, both have not been good. I mean, I think the Saints are trending upward, but, I feel like the Bengals, with their ability to, get interceptions, I feel like just, about a push there. I feel like the Saints, if we can, if Lattimore, can shut down Tyler Boyd, just one-on-one, and then you leave Eli Apple and P.J. Williams to stop Alex Erickson and John Ross, I think we'll be in really, really good shape there. So, I mean, maybe because their wide receiver core this week is not good. I mean, no one really, look, casual NFL fans may not even hear of these people. So, I mean, look, to me, we have, the advantage on that front there. But now to our last category, and that's special teams and coaching, and I think the Saints have a clear edge once again. Sean Payton's a much better coach than Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis has got saved time after time again. No playoff wins for him. Sean Payton obviously has the Super Bowl, and I think Sean Payton's a much better play caller and motivator for that matter. So I think we have a clear edge there. And then special teams, they don't have awful special teams. Randy Bullock is not a bad kicker. Kevin Huber, not the worst punter, but Thomas Morstead and Will Lutz, top really kickers and punters in this league. Taysom Hill, that's obviously a huge factor. I think we'll be using him especially to, clock management and stuff like that. And, he's been the special teams ace. He's been, just basically a flex. He's been the jack of all trades. Been very, very good there. And also, Justin Hardy's been very, very good. So overall, we have the edge there. And now my score prediction, I'm going to go 27-17 Saints. I feel like the Saints probably will pull away late. I think we're going to have a good fourth quarter. I think it will be a duke-it-out game. AFC North teams are not easy to beat, but I think, with their injuries and the momentum that we have, it's going to help. They did have the bye week, and they still have all these injuries, so to me, that's a little concerning for them. But, look, you got to come up, play strong, and get a win here. This would be a huge win, especially if the Panthers lost. So now we're 1.5 games ahead of the Panthers. So this is a big win to get, especially going into another 3-game stretch that maybe doesn't have the caliber of teams that the schedule that the 3 teams we played in our last 3 with the Ravens, Vikings, and Rams. But looking at the teams, we're gonna have to play hard against the Cincinnati. They're a good team on the road, and then you have these 2 home games against the Eagles and Falcons. Those will not be easy to win there. So I think that's really what this game's gonna be. I think we can win this game and not fall to really that what they call a trap game. Don't fall into that. Come out, play really hard just like we did against the Rams, and I'll sure that if we play strong and we play our game, we'll get the W. And I think we can beat anyone in this league, and I think we showed that when beating the Rams. So if we play our game, I think we can beat anyone. So now I think with all that said, I think we should get to some Who Dat Nation fan questions. And really, a lot of people asked this question, but there's only one question this week that everyone was asking is, what are your thoughts on the Dez Bryant signing? Now, many people, they want to know different things. So I'm just going to talk about, we talked about it for 6 minutes, and I'm just going to go on it quick for another probably 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half, just a quick. I think Dez Bryant and why we signed him over the other, wide receivers that we, worked out here. And I think because Dez Bryant, Brandon Marshall, I didn't want him on the team. He's too old, washed up. Kamar Aiken got injured a lot of downside to him. Dez Bryant, he's got real talent, and if you really wanted to add a player splash move, this was a splash move. Now the Saints have added 2 players, 2 real, solid players to their team at, we'll call it the trade deadline, or right around their midseason, so I think that's really big there. This brings a lot of stuff to this team. I like the move. I'm going to, you got to give it a solid grade here. I mean, look, not an A++, but I think it's very solid. It's low risk, high reward, and, those types of moves you want to make, especially midseason. Because, look, let's say he doesn't turn out good, maybe gets hurt, you could just cut him. There's no harm done there. You're not guaranteeing him any money, so I feel like that's going to be a big thing there. That's obviously another thing to look at, but overall, I feel like, really good signing, and I think it's a sign of things to come, really sign of what this GM, wants to do. Win now, and I think it was a really nice move by Mickey Loomis, really nice move by Sean Payton. Also, there was another report out that we went really hard for Patrick Peterson. Sean Payton really hard for Patrick Peterson, but we didn't get him. So, I mean, that just shows, this team's in win-now mode, and, they want to win, a lot of games here, in December, and then get hot into playoff time. I mean, look, right now we're 7-1, we're in good position, but that doesn't mean you let up. You cannot let a collapse happen. Keep this momentum up. And, you got to win games here. And I feel like this is a very winnable game at Cincy that we play next week. But, I think it's just full steam ahead for this team. I thought the Dez move was really good. So I think that's all really good stuff there. So with all that said, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. So if you enjoy this podcast and haven't followed our various, accounts and platforms, on social media, or, where you can, listen to this podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis, on Instagram at Who Dat Discussion, on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion, and also you can subscribe to our iTunes channel, our Spotify channel, our Google Play channel, and our YouTube channel at the Who Dat Discussion. And on all those platforms, please comment, leave reviews, rate us. All that stuff is really, really helpful to see how we're doing and what we need to do better, and what you guys like. So, obviously the Saints have been playing really well, and I like the way that this team has really come together. Their locker room's been, look, a lot of players said this is the best locker room they've ever been in. So to me, it's just now you're adding Dez Bryant. Just all really, really good stuff. So I just want to say thank you, prove them right, and Who Dat?